Alrighty, guys, a motley crew. I'm working on a few hours sleep, so I'm not going to do a day one wrap up video. I'm outsourcing and crowdsourcing to some of my subscribers. You recognize Doug. Michael's been on the show before, Raphael, and then Robert. Also, show them what you did, Michael. We got to give Michael props. Identify all the sick and demented people he put that are subscribers of mine. Give them any spare change you can for their therapy they're going to need. But wanted to get your guys wrap up. You guys have been here actually longer than me, so wanted to get you guys' thoughts, and we'll just go around and get your little mic there. And what were your thoughts?
Well, I've been hanging out here with Michael the last couple days. I think my favorite room has been the Songer room.
Songer,
yeah, Songer room. We were there toward the end of the day yesterday, and were able to spend some quality time and talk to them a little bit. And Michael always asks really good questions, but man, it really did sound really good.
That's the one I've been getting, and lots of people come up to me, and I always ask, "What do you hear?" Like at different shows, it's been Joseph Audio and other ones. This has been Songer's show so far. So yeah, you're right on the mark with a lot of other people. What about you, Michael?
So my takeaway is, I think in general, a lot of the rooms have been pretty well set up. I would say compared to some of the shows I've been at, on average, rooms don't sound bad. They sound pretty decent. Sometimes it's hard going from room to room and kind of readjusting your mind around it. But balance has been good. Volume has been good. Room treatments have been pretty decent. Attention's been paid to generally how they sound versus, I think, quickly setting them up. I think my takeaway is tape as a source. Been really good. Seen 3 or 4 rooms here that are using reel-to-reel tape as a source, and not something I ever had on my radar, something I want, but now it's on my radar as something I may want. It's really tonally rich. Has a jump factor that records just don't have, and sounds a little bit more natural to me than digital in terms of just kind of like some of the presentation. So takeaway from that is positive. I would say my surprise room is Mon Audio, brand I've never heard of before, Korean brand. They had a stack that looks a lot like what's the name of the brand? Oh, gosh, I'm going to blank. But it's like aluminum machined, and it's sounded like when you put the units together, it sounded really nice, filled the room really well, tonally really balanced.
Doesn't break the budget either.
Yeah, $17K for everything, and it's like YG. It looks like a YG clone, but at a quarter of the budget.
Yeah, cool.
I would reiterate that I thought most of the rooms sounded good today and yesterday, really. There weren't any rooms that I walked into. I haven't been to every single one. There weren't really any rooms that I walked into and it's like, oh, this is awful. But I still, kind of question like track choices that some of these rooms are playing. I went in to listen to a room today and they were just playing a very low level classical piece, and I don't have a problem with classical music, but I sat in there for a good 5 minutes and there were no dynamics at all. It was quiet. It's really hard to judge a speaker, and if you're in the market for a speaker, it's really hard to figure out, is this something I would even be interested in. The reel-to-reel stuff, I'm kind of in the market for that. I saw some stuff I really liked today along those lines. I would second the Songer room. I thought that was just the mid-range of that is just gorgeous, ear level. I think that has a lot to do with how good that sounds. But I really didn't hear anything bad. I think all the Scott Walker rooms were good. The Estalons I thought were set up really well. I really liked that yesterday. And the other thing that kind of surprised me is some of the rooms that I went into yesterday that I wasn't all that wowed. Went back today and was a little bit wowed. So it just goes to show you can't really judge it on one given day. If you're not sitting in the right spot or the track that they're listening to, it can really make a big difference. So sometimes, circle back twice if there's a speaker that you're interested in, because sometimes it'll wow you the second time.
Good point. Yeah.
Yeah, I completely agree. Songer and Mon Acoustics were the best rooms.
Really? Okay.
Yeah. For me, there's standout rooms. Obviously, the Scott Walker rooms were all excellent. But something I also like to represent is the Hi-Fi Man booth. They had their separate room where they brought in their new top-of-the-line new Sesvara, the Unveiled, they called it. And I was really impressed with that.
I gotta go in there. Yeah. It's a Stax competitor.
They have their own Shangri-La Senior,
Yeah. Okay.
and that is an electrostat, but the new Sesvara is its own planar magnetic.
Okay. Yeah.
And that is their new and improved Sesvara. And it was a complete surprise that it was even here in California.
Yeah.
It was like no one knew it was going to be here, as far as I know. One of my friends told me that it was here when he figured out I was at the show. He told me the rep was with had the new Sesvara in a room upstairs. So I ran up there.
Very good point to bring up headphones, because that's the area of this hobby that's growing and getting the young people involved, and quite frankly provides a lot of advantages over floor. I mean, you don't get that visceral impact. Certainly headphones, if you don't have the box, you're not gonna, they put the sound in your head and you know it's fake, but you do get almost perfect impulse response, low distortion. You get no room interactions. So when you really want to hear what's on a recording, oftentimes a great headphone rig is invaluable to have to benchmark your home system against. And so that was a big instrumental part of my evolution, is getting a great headphone rig. I know Doug's had an awesome one for a while now.
Sadly, I hardly use.
Yeah. It's hard for you to even use your own system. You're so busy.
What I've learned about headphones, they're beautiful to listen to late night and things like that. You don't get the bass though. You don't get the visceral feel. And now that I've got my subs at home kind of dialed in, I just prefer to listen to that. Yeah, I'd like to give two shout outs though. Two rooms I liked: Margulis, Overture. That's amazing that small speaker could have such a full range.
Yes.
And Acora. We talk about Acora all the time, but I think that the size of this speaker in the room is dialed in perfectly. I thought it had a lot of finesse to it. I really enjoyed sitting there.
One of your friends buy
So I have a friend who's not at this wrap up because he ended up going to the Margulis room and buying the integrated right out of the room.
Is that right?
Yeah. Okay. So he's now.
When you put your money where your mouth is,
he's now playing with it at home, and I'm sure I'll hear from him tomorrow. But he's named Paul. He'll probably join our group at some point, and he's.
Yes, all done. Thank you. Oh, that's okay.
Yeah, no worries. He comes from having a lot of tube gear and golden ear speakers and stuff like that, but he's fallen in love with kind of like the Margulis craftsmanship and just the tonal act, like it just, you go in and the music sounds right in a lot of ways. I wasn't a big fan of his speakers today. I think one of the things we noticed were that a lot of the AMT based speakers were a little bright in these smaller rooms. I think in a bigger room with a little bit more space around them, they might sound better, but I did kind of see that. We went to a couple other rooms where the primary upper part of the driver was AMT based, and they were just, again, hotel rooms, a little bright.
Right. Also depend on the track that they're playing.
Yeah, we asked them that we did that, and we said, can you play a bright, I purposely played a bright track to kind of, set it up, and then I also ask for some vocal or jazz stuff where it shouldn't matter. And they did play better on things like jazz where it was not a lot of high frequency content. But I know this one Silver Sun pickup song, which on a bright system just sounds terrible. And so I had them play it, and it was just this side of not my taste, but that's okay. We also, I'm trying to remember all the names we've been to.
I like the ATC room that we were. Is that right?
Yeah,
ATC,
ATC.
the British.
Yes.
That was.
That
was a little bit. Room. Yeah, that was surprising. I didn't know what to expect in there. We sat down. It just sounded right. That room. They did have two subwoofers that were really dialed in. I think that helped a lot because at first I was like, "Where's all the space coming from?"
You know what? They turned them off and they still sounded.
I bet.
Good.
But I was very impressed with that room as well.
No, I knew exactly when I went in there that they were setting it up how you should do satellite subs, and they were placing the subs where they needed to be for bass propagation, not for aesthetics. And you could tell that it was integrated.
Yeah, because the other sub was off to the right.
Yeah,
the back wall.
I mean, it still wasn't perfect, but for a hotel room, that was really nice. And also on top of that, what we talk about, playing a great track, the BB King, that was very enjoyable. it takes sometimes a village to get that experience where you want to stay in the room, and they definitely delivered on that.
But I heard no menudo all day today, unfortunately.
Well, we did get Terrence Darby, Terrence Trent Darby, yes,
Darby.
and we got the Cure, and we got
That
George
church
Michael.
track was cool.
Yes.
I enjoyed that.
So
That was fun.
Yeah.
props to the Tony and Labs room.
Yes, that was nice. That was a fun room.
I do have some other ones that I'll give a shout out to, but I'll do that in a separate video. But I do pretty much echo the ones that I've gone into. Songer, all the ones, Margulis is always.
Prana, one of your favorites.
Yes.
We sat in their room. Their room sounded
I got to
really
go
good.
back and get the
Yeah.
sweet spot, but I know for a fact that's going to be good.
It's a good sounding room, and it's a two-way, and it
Yeah.
still sounds really.
And if you haven't watched, I did a wrap-up video. I'm going to release it around the same time as this with Steve McCormick and Rick Brown and others, and they were echoing many of the same rooms you guys, as well as the Prana Fidelity. So I'm crowdsourcing, guys, giving you guys a lot of different perspectives, but in a lot of cases, we're like ditto. But I do have a few more to mention, so stay tuned. I'll have more rooms to cover tomorrow, as well as my wrap-up. So see you guys.